In 1936, something extraordinary appeared on the endless roads of Australia. Massive trucks began pulling not one trailer, but several at once. These vehicles weren't built to break records. They were created because there was simply no other practical way to transport cargo across thousands of kilometers of empty wilderness. At first glance, they look like ordinary semi-trucks, but a closer look reveals something incredible. Behind the cab are 3, 4, or even 6 enormous trailers connected together. These are Australia's famous road trains, the longest trucks on Earth. Driving one of these giants is far more difficult than it appears. A single mistake can cause the entire convoy to jackknife across the highway. Their stopping distance can stretch for hundreds of meters. Overtaking another vehicle can take nearly a full minute, and the nearest fuel station or emergency assistance may be hundreds of kilometers away. That is exactly why road trains are almost impossible to find anywhere else in the world. Today, we'll discover why Australia became the only country where these gigantic vehicles are part of everyday life, and why most other nations have banned them from public roads. Australia is one of the harshest environments on Earth. Vast, lifeless landscapes cover most of the continent, while the country's interior is dominated by endless, sun-scorched desert. Small settlements are separated by thousands of kilometers of isolated roads. For many years, delivering basic supplies to these remote communities was an enormous challenge. Food, medicine, and equipment often took months to arrive, carried by slow wagons pulled by camels or heavy horses. Building a reliable railway across the continent proved nearly impossible for the young nation. Local legends claimed that ancient spirits cursed the desert, destroying metal tracks whenever people tried to build them. While these stories made for fascinating folklore, the real problems were far more practical. Shifting sand dunes constantly buried railway lines, while the intense desert heat caused steel rails to expand and warp. To make matters worse, different Australian states built their railways using different track gauges. As a result, trains couldn't travel seamlessly across the country. Goods had to be unloaded and transferred from one train to another at major junctions, creating long delays and increasing transportation costs. This fragmented railway network slowed economic growth and left much of Australia's interior isolated from the rest of the country. A different solution was desperately needed. In 1936, an Australian inventor named Kurt Johansen introduced an idea that would completely transform transportation across the Outback. He needed to move a massive herd of livestock across hundreds of kilometers of harsh desert without losing animals to dehydration. The trucks available at the time were simply too small to carry such a large load. So Johansen took a retired American military tractor, built several heavy-duty wooden trailers, and connected them using specially designed pivot joints of his own invention. These flexible connections allowed the entire convoy to follow the lead vehicle smoothly, even along winding dirt tracks. The homemade giant successfully completed the journey, proving that multiple trailers could be hauled safely across Australia's unforgiving terrain. That single innovation marked the birth of the modern road train. It helped save countless farms from financial ruin and opened remote parts of Australia that had previously been almost impossible to reach. Most countries would never allow vehicles this large to operate on public highways. The reason is simple. Both safety regulations and the laws of physics make them extremely difficult to control. Imagine driving a small car when a truck convoy nearly the length of a football field approaches from the opposite direction. If the driver brakes suddenly, the trailers can begin to swing one after another, like the tail of a giant steel snake. Other drivers may have only a few seconds to react. Australia, however, made a bold decision. The government officially legalized road trains because it recognized that remote communities simply could not survive without them. Special regulations defined exactly where these massive vehicles were allowed to operate and where they were prohibited. They are common throughout the Outback, but are generally banned from major coastal cities such as Sydney and Melbourne. Before entering urban areas, drivers must disconnect the extra trailers at designated staging areas outside city limits. Some tourists mistakenly believe that anyone can drive a road train through the Australian desert without a special license. That is completely false. Becoming a road train driver requires years of professional experience, advanced training, and some of the toughest driving examinations in the country. Every operator must earn specialized licenses, and only drivers with exceptional safety records are permitted to handle these enormous vehicles. Australia's infrastructure has also been designed to accommodate them. The highways connecting remote regions are built with long, straight stretches and very few sharp turns. Intersections feature exceptionally wide turning radii, allowing the long chains of trailers to maneuver safely without crossing into oncoming traffic. Road surfaces are specially engineered to withstand the constant pressure of dozens of heavy wheels carrying hundreds of tons of cargo. Bridges and embankments are reinforced far beyond the standards used for ordinary highways. Even fuel stations are built on an entirely different scale. Instead of small parking lots, they resemble freight terminals, providing enough space for road trains to refuel, park, and turn around safely. Road signs are installed farther from the edge of the road than usual, preventing them from being struck by the powerful air turbulence or the swinging rear trailers as these enormous vehicles pass. The specialized highways and fuel stations make it possible for road trains to travel across Australia's vast interior. But even the best roads cannot move a convoy weighing hundreds of tons on their own. To pull such an enormous load safely over thousands of kilometers, engineers had to completely rethink how these machines were built. At first glance, Australia's road trains look intimidating. Unlike the cab-over trucks commonly seen across Europe, nearly all Australian road trains use long-nose conventional tractors. The extended engine compartment is more than just a design choice. It serves as a protective barrier during collisions with wildlife, which are surprisingly common in the Outback. The trucks themselves are built on heavily reinforced steel frames capable of handling tremendous stress day after day. Massive bull bars, often nicknamed rhubards, are mounted on the front to absorb impacts with kangaroos, cattle, and even wild camels that wander onto remote highways. Some people believe these trucks are based on military vehicles or built in secret factories using armored designs. The truth is far less mysterious. Most road train tractors are produced on standard commercial assembly lines by major truck manufacturers. The difference is that nearly every critical component, from the chassis and suspension to the drivetrain and cooling system, is strengthened to handle Australia's extreme operating conditions. The real engineering masterpiece lies behind the cab. Each trailer is connected using specialized converter dollies, small wheeled units that act like flexible joints between trailers. These dollies allow the entire convoy to bend smoothly through curves while keeping every trailer aligned behind the lead truck. Another crucial system is the air braking network that runs through the entire road train. Braking such a massive vehicle isn't as simple as pressing the pedal. The brakes must activate in a carefully controlled sequence so that the rear trailers begin slowing almost simultaneously with, or in some systems, fractionally ahead of, the front sections. This balanced braking prevents the trailers from pushing forward and destabilizing the convoy. If the braking system fails or becomes unbalanced, the enormous weight of the rear trailers can force the entire road train out of control, creating a potentially catastrophic accident. Truck drivers sometimes joke that the last trailer has a mind of its own, especially during long nighttime journeys across the desert. But there's nothing supernatural about it. The stability of the convoy depends entirely on precise engineering, careful weight distribution, and perfectly adjusted coupling geometry. Powering these giants is an equally impressive engine. Most Australian road trains rely on enormous turbocharged diesel engines that generate tremendous torque rather than extreme speed. Pulling hundreds of tons across endless highways requires constant, reliable power instead of rapid acceleration. Yet the greatest enemy of these engines isn't the weight they pull. It's the desert itself. Summer temperatures in Central Australia frequently climb above 45 degrees Celsius, and the heat radiating from the road surface can be even higher. Under these conditions, an ordinary truck would quickly overheat. That's why road trains are equipped with oversized radiators, heavy-duty cooling fans, and large reserves of coolant designed specifically for extreme climates. Air filtration is just as important. Fine red desert dust can destroy an engine in a surprisingly short time if it reaches the internal components. To prevent this, road trains use multi-stage filtration systems that remove even microscopic particles before they enter the engine. But no matter how advanced the machinery becomes, the most important part of every road train is still the person behind the wheel. Drivers often spend weeks on the road, crossing landscapes where the scenery changes very little for hundreds of kilometers. Endless highways stretch toward the horizon, surrounded by red earth, dry grasslands, and empty desert. The isolation can be mentally exhausting. Hours pass with little more than the steady hum of the diesel engine and the occasional voice over the radio. Many drivers sleep in compact cabins attached to their trucks, living on the road for extended periods while delivering supplies across the continent. Stories often circulate among truckers about strange sights seen during late-night drives through the Outback. Some claim they've witnessed mysterious lights or unusual figures standing beside deserted highways. In reality, these experiences are usually explained by fatigue, heat distortion, and optical illusions created by endless hours of driving through the same unchanging landscape. Even without ghost stories, every kilometer of the Australian outback presents real dangers. Wildlife is among the biggest threats. Large groups of kangaroos, cattle, and wild camels can suddenly appear on the road, especially after dark when they are drawn toward the warmth of the pavement or blinded by headlights. A fully loaded road train cannot stop instantly or make sudden evasive maneuvers. In many situations, avoiding a collision is simply impossible. Swerving sharply could cause the entire convoy to overturn, making a direct impact with an animal the safer option compared to risking a catastrophic crash. Nature presents other challenges as well. Powerful dust storms can reduce visibility to almost zero within seconds, turning broad daylight into complete darkness while covering the highway with drifting sand. Communication is another major concern. Across much of the outback, mobile phone coverage simply doesn't exist. If a truck breaks down or an accident occurs, drivers often rely on long-range radio systems to call for assistance. Sometimes help may not arrive for many hours or even several days. Life on these remote highways demands patience, preparation, and exceptional skill. For every successful journey, drivers must overcome heat, isolation, unpredictable wildlife, and some of the harshest driving conditions anywhere on Earth. Driving a road train isn't just about keeping the truck moving in a straight line. Every maneuver must be carefully planned long before it's made. One of the most challenging tasks is overtaking another vehicle. On Australia's long two-lane highways, passing a slower truck or caravan can take nearly a full minute. Because a road train may stretch well over 50 meters, and in some cases much longer, the driver needs several kilometers of clear road before attempting to overtake. A single miscalculation can leave both vehicles trapped in the oncoming lane with nowhere to escape. Descending steep hills is another serious test. A fully loaded road train can weigh hundreds of tons, and gravity quickly becomes one of its greatest enemies. Relying only on the service brakes would cause them to overheat, dramatically reducing their effectiveness. Instead, experienced drivers select the proper gear before beginning the descent and use engine braking to control their speed. This technique prevents excessive heat buildup and keeps the massive convoy under control throughout the downhill stretch. Even small steering corrections require caution. At highway speeds, a sudden movement of the steering wheel can create a wave-like motion that travels from one trailer to the next. This effect, known as trailer sway, can become increasingly violent until the last trailer begins swinging uncontrollably, potentially causing the entire road train to roll over. Despite these risks, road trains remain the backbone of Australia's transportation network. The reason lies beneath the surface of the continent itself. Australia is incredibly rich in natural resources. Iron ore, gold, copper, nickel, lithium, and many other valuable minerals are extracted from mines scattered across some of the most remote regions on Earth. Many of these mining sites are relatively small and operate for only a limited number of years before production moves elsewhere. Building dedicated railway lines to every individual mine would cost billions of dollars and often wouldn't make economic sense. By the time the railway paid for itself, the mine might already be exhausted. Road trains offer a far more flexible solution. They can reach temporary mining operations, transport heavy equipment, and adapt to changing routes without requiring permanent infrastructure. Australia's geology also makes railway construction especially difficult. Much of the interior consists of shifting sandy soils and expansive clay plains. During the scorching summer months, the ground cracks under intense heat. In the wet season, normally dry riverbeds can suddenly transform into powerful floodwaters that wash away roads, bridges, and railway embankments. Maintaining rail lines across such unpredictable terrain would require constant repairs and enormous financial investment. Roads, on the other hand, are far easier and less expensive to restore after extreme weather events. Damaged sections can often be repaired quickly, allowing freight traffic to resume with minimal disruption. This flexibility has made road transport the most practical option for much of Australia's interior. Every day, road trains move millions of tons of freight across the continent. They carry fuel to isolated communities, transport livestock from remote cattle stations, deliver food and medical supplies, haul construction equipment, and move enormous quantities of minerals from inland mines to coastal ports. Without them, many towns would struggle to survive. Entire communities depend on regular deliveries of diesel, groceries, building materials, machinery, and other essential supplies. If road trains stopped operating for even a single week, shortages would quickly spread across remote regions. Their importance extends beyond mining. Australia's enormous cattle stations, some of the largest ranches in the world, also rely heavily on road trains. Livestock can be transported across vast distances, far more efficiently than with conventional trucks, allowing farmers to reach processing facilities and export markets that would otherwise be inaccessible. Grain, wool, agricultural equipment, and industrial supplies all move through this same transportation network. In many ways, road trains function as the lifeline of the Australian outback. They connect isolated settlements to the rest of the country, support major industries, and make it possible for people to live and work in places where conventional transportation simply isn't practical. Yet even this uniquely Australian system is beginning to evolve. Modern technology is gradually transforming the world of long-haul trucking. Advanced driver assistance systems now monitor fatigue, lane position, tire pressure, engine performance, and vehicle stability in real time. Satellite tracking allows fleet operators to monitor trucks across thousands of kilometers, improving safety and logistics. Despite rumors that artificial intelligence will soon replace truck drivers altogether, the reality is far more complex. Automation currently serves as an assistant, not a replacement. Electronic systems can issue warnings, collect data, and support decision-making, but when a sudden obstacle appears on a remote highway or conditions change unexpectedly, the final decision still rests with the driver. Human judgment remains irreplaceable in one of the world's most demanding driving environments. Environmental concerns are also shaping the future of road trains. Governments and manufacturers are working to reduce emissions from heavy transport, leading engineers to explore hybrid powertrains, hydrogen fuel technologies, and alternative energy solutions for these massive vehicles. Some experimental designs combine traditional diesel engines with electric systems that recover energy during braking, improving fuel efficiency without sacrificing pulling power. However, Australia's extreme climate creates major engineering challenges. High temperatures place enormous stress on modern battery systems, reducing performance and shortening their lifespan. Long distances between charging or refueling points also make fully electric road trains difficult to operate with current technology. For now, powerful diesel engines remain the only practical solution capable of hauling hundreds of tons across the vast Australian wilderness.